You're listening to the Bug Bucks Podcast, hosted by Alan Draper and Eric Bassett.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Bug Bucks Podcast, a podcast designed to help you become a bug money millionaire. I'm Alan Draper.
And I'm Eric Bassett.
And we're your hosts. Today's episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 course designed to help you start and grow your pest control company. Eric and I are dedicated to providing you with the best resources to help you on your journey to success. Before we begin, I just wanted to remind everybody listening, the best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred platform, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and review. And one last reminder, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, go to Bug Bucks. That's BUGBUX on Facebook. We'd love to hear from our listeners. With that being said, what do you have for us, Eric?
And I just want to mirror what Alan was just saying. We just launched the Bug Bucks Plus platform. So if you guys are more interested in getting information on that, visit us at bugbucksplus.com and we'll make sure we get you guys all that information. Today, we are diving into best practices when it comes to getting reviews on Google. And we're going to kind of talk about some policies, also some best practices, pro tips, all the fun stuff. So, Alan, I actually have some of Google policy pulled up right here. So if you want to dive into that, I can
let's do it. Yeah,
okay, sweet.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to include this link in the show notes for you guys. So if you're wondering where this is coming from, you can just click on the link and go right to it. But this is in Google's policies, and it's under prohibited and restricted content. And this has to do with reviews, photos, videos, all of it. If you go down to deceptive content, there is a subsection called fake engagement. And fake engagement is going to cover most of what I think the PCOs need to be aware of. That's going to kind of cause some issues. So let's talk about the stuff that Google does not allow right off the top. Paying, incentivizing, or encouraging the posting of content that does not represent a genuine experience. So that's pretty easy. If it's not a genuine experience with the company, then you definitely can't pay or incentivize anything like that. That includes, helping out your buddies or telling your buddies to post reviews. That's so
pretty
clear.
cool that they kind of clarify it by saying not a genuine experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Yelp, they don't even allow you to ask for one. They don't even allow you to specifically request a Yelp review. And Google's saying, okay, you can request reviews. It just has to reflect a genuine experience. And even more than that, the way I interpret it is, you can encourage it as long as you're not paying somebody to leave a 5-star review when they don't think you deserved one or whatever, right? That's how I'm kind of taking it.
Yeah. And they actually dive a little bit deeper into some of these details as they go, which is kind of cool. The next one they talk about is discouraging or prohibiting negative reviews or selectively soliciting positive reviews from customers. So you guys might have heard about this before. It's called review gating, right?
Yep.
And if you guys have a system that asks customers, hey, if you feel like we deserve a 5-star review, then here's a link, right? If you do that, technically Google sees it as review gating. You have to separate the two and say, hey, we'd love feedback, right? Here's a review link. And, tell us how you feel like we did, like if there's a way that we can improve, right? Because Google doesn't want you to selectively ask only the customers who feel like you did well for reviews. It's called review gating.
That's interesting because I feel like every large company does that.
Dude,
Best Buy the other day delivered a freezer to me, and I know that's exactly what they were doing. On a scale from 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer to somebody else? You click a lower than whatever, lower than 8, then they're like, oh, here's a feedback form we'd like to get into the hands of one of our managers. If it's 8 or above, it's like, oh, thanks for the positive feedback. Here's a public review link, right?
Yeah. No, and I'd be shocked. I'm sure tons of companies do this, and they probably have no idea that this is an issue. And especially if you're using a platform, like a review platform. There was a big issue a couple of years ago that Google came out specifically talking about those platforms and review gating. So if you're wondering, you just have to separate the two. There's a way to do it. And we can talk about that later, but you have to separate you asking for feedback from you asking how you did so that you're not review gating customers.
And I think, one simple way to do it, even if you use one of those third-party platforms, is just send the review link to everybody, regardless of what they mentioned or said they were going to review you at.
Yeah. And the way that my platform, we got around it at the time is, you exactly have to send out the review link along with asking how you did. Like, hey, do you feel like we did a 5-star job, right? But if you send the link after you figured out that you have a 5-star job, or if Google takes a peek at your process and it shows that you're only looking at people who say you're doing a 5-star job to give review links to, then not so much. Next, it says that content that is not based on a real experience and does not accurately represent the location or product in question. So if anybody's wondering, if you get a review from somebody who is just weird and has nothing to do with your company, like it was an accidental review on your page, or, for example, I had somebody from another company who knocked on somebody's door and my service vehicle was 2 houses down from that whole experience. So they just put 2 and 2 together and thought that the person knocking on the door was my door-to-door guy. The guy was kind of a jerk. And so they left us a review. So when we flagged the review, we specifically mentioned this particular part of their policy. And that's where that would help you get that review removed. So
I think this is a great point because it helps us get rid of the reviews that don't apply. Same thing happened to me.
Yep.
There was a door-to-door situation. They said all these things and it's like, that doesn't sound like us. We looked at the area. It's like, we haven't knocked in that area this year and we were able to get it removed.
Yeah, 100%. So that one's super useful. And then content that has been incentivized by a business in exchange for discounts, free goods, and or services. And they have a little subsection for that says this includes merchant requests for revision or removal of a negative review through offered discounts, free goods or services, or other incentives. So just to be clear here, what it's saying is that if you incentivize somebody with discounts, free goods, or services to leave you a review, or if you try to incentivize somebody to take off a negative review with discounts or free goods or services, that's a no-go, 100% from Google. So we talked about this before, and we do this at our company. We incentivize technicians to get reviews, right? That's legal. You can do that. But that money can't flow from the company to the consumer. As soon as it does that, Google is totally against it.
I wonder what Google would say about us, paying or incentivizing our techs and letting the customer know about that. Where it's like, hey, we're going to tip the technician on your behalf, just letting you know.
You can actually, and I've looked through Google's policies a few different times, and I might have to eat my words on this in the future, so just forewarning. It doesn't say anything about letting the customer know that you incentivize your technicians, and even if you incentivize your technicians for a 5-star review. So I could tell a customer, hey, just want to let you know, if you feel like we did a good job, I'll actually give my technician $5 or I'll help him do whatever, doesn't matter. For all of his customers who leave him a 5-star review and mention him by name. As long as the customer can know all of those things. As long as that customer doesn't get a discounted service, free service, or any kind of financial incentive from doing it.
Where it gets kind of tricky is with the removal of a negative review. Yeah. When it's like, hey, it sounds like we didn't do a good job for you. We're going to come back out. We're going to fix the problem. And we're actually just going to waive the service fee. And in a lot of cases, that's going to do the trick to get the negative review removed. And so is it just a matter of just not telling them that that's the purpose of the refund or whatever?
You're on the right track. And obviously I'm sure you love this, being an attorney, it's all about if it's conditional or not, right?
Right.
So I remember talking to a customer and they left a really bad review and we charged a cancellation fee and they were upset. And I said, hey, really sorry about this. I really would love to work out a way that we can, maybe even review or remove that review if you feel like I'm treating you fairly. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to remove that cancellation fee off the account. And, whatever you feel like is fair on your end, that's completely up to you, right? I just want you to know specifically, this doesn't have any strings attached to it. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that fee, right? And it has to be like, you can even make it a little bit more vague than that, I think, if you wanted to. But it just,
like, hey, if you appreciate what we've done, if your impression of us has changed and you feel inclined to update your review, we'd appreciate that. Something like that.
Yes. Yeah. So for those guys that are listening, there's a way to do it. You just have to make sure that it's not explicitly conditional. So I thought that was an interesting one. Here's some other helpful ones as we kind of go down the list. It says content that has been posted by a competitor to undermine a business's or product's reputation. So if you guys think that one of your competitors in your local market is posting fake reviews, then that's what you need to specifically talk about in your when you're talking to Google about getting that review removed. Excuse me.
We just had this happen a couple of weeks ago. 2 door-to-door guys knocking in the same neighborhood. A competitor's door-to-door rep felt frustrated. I think it was one of our better reps. Went to talk to the guy. I don't know exactly what was exchanged there, but the review said, left by a door-to-door competitor rep. The review said, went to talk with one of Proof's employees. He was in a neighborhood, was very rude. 1 star. It's like, bro.
Yeah, that sounds pretty obvious.
We got that removed.
Oh, nice. Let's see. Next on the list, content that has been posted from multiple accounts to manipulate a place's rating. So this kind of goes more into, and you got to remember who you're talking about here is Google, possibly the king of algorithms. So they look at reviews and they're going to probably gauge how similar reviews are. And if a review looks like it's been copied and pasted, even if it's from 2 separate email addresses, it's going to be flagged and they'll have an issue with that.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. And then the last one here, and this probably has more to do with, I think, AI and other things than anything else. It says content that has been posted using an emulator or other device tampering service, modified operating system, or other method to mimic genuine engagement, manipulate sensor data or results, or otherwise thwart or confuse normal operations. Okay, so if you're
maybe
if you're
a bot
using,
or something.
Yeah, bots, review services, Chat GPT, some type of process that is designed to like automatically go through different email addresses and have an automatic process to leave reviews. Don't want to give anybody any ideas here.
I was going to say that's a really good idea. Like, hey, ChatGPT, write a review for a really tasty pizza joint about their pepperoni pizza for a local establishment, and then you just copy and paste it. It's like,
yeah, man, it's so crazy, and I'm glad we finally are kind of going through some of these more specific points in Google's policies, because there's a lot of times that we had a post in our Bug Bucks Facebook group where somebody specifically asked about these. And I don't think that a lot of business owners, PCOs, go into the policies in Google and actually read them word for word. Because there's definitely ways that you can, quote unquote, work around them that still adhere by their policies. But I'm sure that some guys are probably just blatantly disregarding these.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is that Google, I think they do a better job now of filtering out reviews, but even just a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, it was a heyday. Anything went. You could leave, the same person could leave like 20 5-star reviews for their own company, never got filtered. And I kind of noticed the evolution with Google. I think it started in probably 2017 or 2018 where they started to actually filter reviews and, do something about, some of those practices that they didn't feel were appropriate.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I mean, I like to imagine that Google is always fully staffed and has all sorts of people that just look through reviews and pay attention to my GMB profile and, all those good things. But I don't really think that's very
No,
likely all
it's
the
just a
time.
computer. Yeah, a computer doing
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
no, not so much. So Alan, I know that you had some other points on your end. Do we want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly go through kind of just on this subject of building successful review campaigns, as important as they are for our service businesses. I have 10 points here. I'm going to cruise through the 10 points, and then we'll kind of go back and try to hit each one of them just at least briefly. We're working with about 15 minutes here. So number one, and I'm just going to read them, no commentary at this point. Number one, provide exceptional customer service. Number two, deliver a quality product or service, which is, I guess, is very similar to number one. Number three, encourage feedback from the consumer. Number four, respond to all reviews. Number five, make it convenient to leave a review. Number six, showcase your positive reviews. Seven, address negative feedback constructively. Eight, train your team about reviews. 9, monitor the online platforms. And 10, be consistent. So kind of scrolling back to number one, and this kind of goes without saying, but honestly, Eric, sometimes I feel, and that's provide exceptional customer service. I feel like sometimes, and we've done this where it's like we fight so hard against negative reviews, and it's like, hey, maybe we should address the problem, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like maybe we should actually do something. I had a situation today. I was listening to calls, and one of my reps inside sales reps just really goofed up, and we need to call the person he was speaking with back and apologize. And at the end of the day, we don't want negative reviews on there. But the negative reviews can tell us a lot about things that we don't know. Like, hey, you have a guy walking around doing this or that. And I think this kind of relates to number three, which is encourage feedback. Like, what's the culture of your company? Is it just a facade? Is it just what the reviews are and what you're saying about it? Or do you actually care about your service? And if you actually care about your service, which I think at the end of the day, Eric, is a much larger issue than the reviews. Like, hey, through this process that the internet has created for us, we're able to improve our businesses. How incredible is that? So every time, and I get the reaction to just fight against a 1-star review. I understand that. I have felt that. But and sometimes it's just airing some, some frustration or whatever. But look into it and see how it can help your company.
Oh, 100%. And when you talk about having a service worth getting a 5-star review or a good review, right? I mean, in the service world, you have to remember that people who leave reviews are usually doing so because they have a really good experience or they have a really bad experience. Everything in the middle is just kind of expected, right? And so a lot of times, like if you look at somebody's reviews in Google and you look at the breakdown of 5-star to 1-star, it's usually a lot of 5 stars and hopefully not too many, but the next thing down the list is just 1 stars, right? You get the angry people, you get the happy people. So, you want to be able to provide a customer experience that is worthy of a 5-star review. And I agree with the second thing you said. Your company needs to have a culture that wants feedback, it craves evaluation and improvement. And the way that we get that is partly from our customer base, asking, hey, I'd love to know more about how you feel like I did today. If you feel like I did a 5-star service, I'd love a review. If you feel like I did less than a 5-star service, I would love some additional feedback. Tell me what I can do to make this better for you. Right?
Yeah. And of addressing that about encouraging feedback, which was the third thing on the list. If you do that, you're actually telling your employees like, hey, we couple of things. One, we want to get better. Two, we appreciate when people tell us when things aren't up to par or aren't as they should be. What is that telling your employees? Hey, if they're like this with customers, then they probably want my feedback. And it's not just lip service where it's like, hey, we really want to know how you feel. They tell us, and then we're like, we're not like that. We didn't do that, right? So that's number 3. That's a really good point. Number 4, respond to all reviews, whether positive or negative.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the engagement, Google wants to see that you're engaging with reviews on your GMB profile. And people want to see that you're engaging with reviews. If I go on some company and I look at the reviews and I see that not only when people leave good reviews and bad reviews, but that business owner responds and engages with those customers, I think, oh my gosh, like they actually want to talk with their clients. They want to engage with their customers. So if I have a problem, then I, can reach out to them and they're going to engage with me. It provides a really good level of transparency.
I think that's true even when it's positive feedback, because it's kind of like when you say thank you, you want people to say you're welcome. And that's kind of that concept. Like, hey, thank you for doing a good service for us. Here's a 5-star review. Nothing. And I think, so Proof has tens of thousands of reviews across different platforms and stuff. I don't know that we have been 100% diligent in this one. So number 4, respond to all reviews. Number 5, make it convenient to leave reviews. So we talked a little bit about that when we were going through the policies. What are we doing to to let them know, one, that we're collecting them, how to leave a review, things like that. And this is a really big one for us. Let me look at my list here. So this kind of relates to train your team, where we want to be asking them, even if they've already left us a 5-star review, we're asking every one of our customers every time we do a service, reservice, anything. We're sending them a really easy link to leave us a review. And then kind of the train your team, I think it touches on this. We also talk about